Do you love weaver ants? And it's not a question. Weaver ants have long been living in the hearts of ant keepers, but throughout our history we couldn't manage to keep these ants at home, and maybe I found the right approach. For several months now I've been the owner of a colony of Oecophylla Smaragdina ants, and today I will show you the incredible journey of keeping these species. I'll share my observations and nuances I've noticed, and I'll reveal the secret to successfully keeping weaver ants in a domestic environment. Greetings to all ant lovers on my channel. This is the Ants Terra project. Enjoy watching.
Ants Terra Prod.
And packing. The weaver ants arrived to me along with a bunch of other exotic ants that I sent to my friend in Ukraine. This is Oecophylla Smaragdina colony. I can't see the queen. There were a lot of emotions. I've seen these species before, but I still felt joy and excitement of these unusual little ants. Right after receiving them, I began to examine the test tube with these valuable inhabitants. Such a large colony, you could even see brood, which is rare for weaver ants. Approximately 60 ants were there at a glance, and that was enough for a good start. The ants were active, but it was clear that they were uncomfortable in such a small nest. The cloudy test tube and the abundance of workers didn't allow me to see the queen, but with the right angle I managed to spot her. Here she is, hiding from the light under the workers and worrying about her colony. It's clear now that the ants arrived in a good condition, and that means it's time to prepare a new home for them. The simple setup that everyone has made. An outworld with holes for 3 test tubes, but for now 2 will be enough. However, there is something different about this formicarium from the ones we are used to. One of the test tubes in it is without water. I carefully apply Vaseline oil to the walls. Weaver ants can easily overcome most other anti-escapes. Here it is, the long-awaited moment. I gently place the test tube with the new ants into the outworld, and finally I give them a chance to breathe fresh air. The weaver ants quickly rushed into the outworld as a united crowd. They immediately started carrying out the dead from the nest and searching for food. They answered curiosity towards everything. They weren't afraid of the new place, but rather explored it with interest, hoping to find a new home. And for some reason they often opened their mandibles like this. I immediately gave them honey to ensure they wouldn't have hunger issues. Weaver ants really love sweets, so they found the food right away. A refuse pile started forming in the corner to prevent dead ants from smelling up the nest. The weaver ants work together harmoniously. It's truly amazing when ants immediately get to work and know what they need to do. But it was already late, so I placed the farm in a dark place and left them in peace. However, when I checked on them at night, I saw that the ants had already started relocation. Look, the queen is already sitting in the outworld. The ants were so uncomfortable in the old test tube that they left at the first opportunity. It was clear that they hadn't decided on their new home yet, but I was pleased to see that the relocation process had started very quickly. And already here you can see that the queen of my colony is colored unusually. She has an orange thorax and a greenish abdomen. Such morphs are not common, but the color of the queen didn't matter much to me. The next day everything changed. The ants were still in the process of relocation, but they had established a temporary nest in the outworld. Almost all the brood and the main part of the ants were in one corner, while the others were busy moving the brood. I waited a little longer, and the workers found a place for the new ant nest. It's unusual to see weaver ants in such a setup, but these are just stereotypes. Time to clean up the outworld. Besides, it smelled quite unpleasant in there. I remove all the debris and dead ants. Thanks to the weaver ants for being neat and not scattering trash all over the outworld. Now I'll make their conditions a bit closer to their natural habitat. I add some soil to the outworld. The bright workers look great in it, and it looks better than plain plastic. Why not add a leaf to it? It complements the composition and helps with ant feeding. For example, it's convenient for pouring honey on. For now, due to stress, the ants are ignoring the feeder insects. It happens with ants, but I didn't expect the weaver ants to be so finicky for so long. Otherwise, the ants look good. They roam around the outworld and settle in. The colony has finally settled on a nest and chose the empty test tube. I didn't give them two options for nothing. That's what my colleagues advised me to do, and as you can see, it worked. The weaver ants preferred the dry option. Construction has slowly begun, and the workers have sealed the gap with the silk. There is really a lot of brood. This is pleasing and increases the chances of a successful attempt. In the process, we will also find out how quickly weaver ants grow. Over time, the system stabilizes. It's humid in the outworld as seen from the condensation, and I'll say in advance that it's not advisable to do this. The ants have already improved the test tube by silk, creating two levels in one spot. The queen sits on the first level while the brood is stored on the second. At this stage everything is new to me and I don't fully understand what conditions they need, but this will come with experience in keeping them. What I can note now is that there is no panic in the ant nest. I think it's because in the wild their nest often sway in the wind and light penetrates through the leaves, so these ants remain calm. Despite this, I try not to disturb the ants unnecessarily and keep them in the dark. I wipe away the condensation from the outworld. There shouldn't be high humidity in it. Moving forward, I'll keep them without a lid. And here on the shelf is where I store the weaver ant system. It doesn't receive too much light here, yet it's not too dark either. I think this is the best option for them. Oecophylla ants also like warm, and they are heated 24/7 with a heat cord. I can't say for sure, but it's around 28 degrees Celsius in there. And here is a new insight for you. Weaver ants need to be provided with water. I've already mentioned this in my social medias, but not everyone saw it. In brief, these ants don't drink well from cotton and they need an open water source. After 2 weeks, the situation changed again. It seems that the ants have finally recovered from the stress. That's great, but we'll still monitor their behavior. Now I can handle them without worrying. It's not like they are messers. I brought the ants into the light and for them it's as if nothing has changed. Usually weaver ants don't survive well in shipping, and it's blessing if at least the queen survives. Most of the time there is no brood. This isn't surprising because such colonies are usually dug up and Asian sellers don't take brood from nests, which makes it challenging for keepers. I want to clarify that I don't support buying dug up ants. It's often a waste of money and I don't want to sponsor such poaching. This colony was more of a payment for my help in transporting a batch of ants, and I wouldn't have bought them just for the sake of it. Weaver ants are more demanding than regular ants and require regular maintenance. Because of daily feeding with insects, I have to clean the outworld quite often. Additionally, every day I spray the walls and the leaf with water to simulate dew which they drink in nature. The ants are starting to show interest to other insects, but not as actively as I would like. They carried this cricket around the outworld for a long time and they just threw it into the trash. After 3 weeks, progress is evident. The queen has laid eggs and the ants have become active hunters. New layers of silk have appeared. The ants perceive this test tube as a full-fledged nest. The colony is growing confidently. New workers are appearing almost every day and I see active brood grow. The queen is doing well. She is alive and producing offspring. There are many larvae and pupae among the ants, and they cover the entire back of the test tube. New workers are emerging literally every day, and it seems that I have found an approach to this species. But let's not rush, there are still many adventures ahead. In the meantime, you can take a closer look at the queen in all her glory. She indeed has an unusual morph. If someone doesn't know, weaver ant queens are usually entirely green. It's time to test the hunting skills of these formidable weaver ants. For this I prepared a paralyzed mealworm, which I crushed in advance to prevent it from burrowing underground. Let's try it. And where is Hunt? It seems the weaver ants take some time to get going, but at least now they're eating insects. Thanks for that. A bit later, a larger group of workers arrived, and they began to dissect the prey in the tube. Here's another piece of news for you. Weaver and queens have a short lifespan, only a few years, so be prepared for the unexpected death of the queen. Of course 5 years would be enough, but you don't know the age of the colony when it was captured in the wild, so it's better to subtract a couple of years up front. On the bright side, weaver ants are generally easy to introduce to each other, well, at least in theory. I really want to buy a fresh queen and test if it's as easy as it sounds, but let's revisit that idea a bit later. Weaver ants love honey, syrups and anything sweet, so you have to give them something sweet regularly. Seriously, I give them honey every 2 to 3 days, and every time the ants eagerly drink it. In nature they maintain aphid colonies and constantly extract honeydew in this way, therefore at home you have to feed them as often as possible. Oecophylla ants are not picky in this regard. Honey, glucose and syrup they eat it without any problems. The main thing is not to forget to give them water. One month has passed. I think if weaver ants haven't died in 4 weeks and they are still growing, the method can definitely be considered successful. Look at how much brood they have. All the larvae have either turned into pupae or are about to enter the next phase. The ants have woven a very sturdy, let's call it a silk hammock. It's a shame they can create nests for me like they do in nature, but they still show their construction skills. Very beautiful ants. I haven't seen this color in any other ant species. They are large and stunning, and now I understand why keepers love them so much. By the way, an interesting fact, weaver ants have different castes, but let's leave that topic for a scientific video about weaver ants that the world will surely see. In the meantime, more eggs and tiny larvae have appeared. I can't call the grow rate fast, but it takes about a month and a half for one generation to develop. By the way, the ants have become bolder. They catch the paralyzed mealworm without any problems. It's time to test their hunting skills. The forest cockroach ventures onto the ant territory and is immediately spotted by a scout. The ants grab it in a special way and pull it in different directions to prevent the prey from escaping. Meanwhile, other ants start gnawing at the poor cockroach. A new candidate, earwig. Although they are not dangerous, people are afraid of these creatures, but today this individual is in for a terrible fate. The weaver ants are hungry and waiting for prey. And then, in their field of vision, a cockroach-like creature appears, and they immediately attack it. The scary pincers on the earwig's tail are useless against the ants. Moreover, it's very convenient for the ants to grab onto those pincers with their mandibles. The ants mobilize instantly and stretch out the earwig in the same way for their convenience. At this point, it's all decided. The earwig has no chance. You can see one of the workers biting off the prey's leg while they hold it. The ants do everything necessary to support their colony. These ants are very tenacious and strong. They must grip the ground tightly to hold on to their prey, so it's even difficult to detach them from your fingers. Probably weaver ants are the most tenacious of all ant species. The ritual lasts a long time. These ants find it difficult to bite through chitin, but in the end the prey ends up in the nest. Sometimes there is condensation in the test tube. This is bad and it shouldn't be allowed, but we learn from our mistakes. As you may have noticed, my weaver ants chose the test tube without water. Why? Well, because they don't need the high humidity that all keepers try to provide. In nature, they often settle in places that are well heated by the sun and where it's not too damp. Creating 90% humidity for them is a clear mistake. You can see it yourself, the ants proved it with their choice. By this time I changed the test tube with water to a second empty one to give them more space to grow, and I place a new leaf. Usually the ants hunt actively, but today they weren't in the mood, so I couldn't capture the killing of the locust. I had to crush it and leave it for the ants to store. I've always liked how weaver ants look on plants. Well, more than liked. I was thrilled. Such bright ants on green leaves, so I decided to give the ants a chance to walk on the current stem temporarily. I secured the branch in a special container to prevent it from falling. By the way, there was aphid in it, and I hoped that the ants would figure out what to do, but in the end the ants just ate the peaceful insects. What can I say? Weaver ants are weaver ants. So this is the modest terrarium I created. Perhaps in the next video we'll come up with a real. Who knows? I drop honey syrup on the leaves to attract the ants' attention. And I watched the most elegant ants I've ever had. The ants have unpacked most of the pupae and now there are really a lot of them. Have I mentioned how cool they look against the green background? The development of the species is not fast, but it's possible I'm doing something wrong. I'm figuring things out with them as I go, hoping to find the right approach. The theory that they need to be watered with an open water source is something that I came up with based on my experience. By the way, here is what happens to the queen when she doesn't get enough water. Her abdomen retracts, which is clear sign that the ants want to drink. But it's not fatal, and if you notice the problem in time, everything will be fine. As for the lifespan of the workers, I haven't determined that yet. They seem to live for several months, but I can't say for sure. These ants have very durable silk. Over time they add new layers to it, and no wind can destroy their nest. They also like to weave around the test tube from the inside, which can make it challenging to observe them. Regarding water, I try to give it to the weaver ants twice a day, in the morning and evening. I simply drop it on a leaf and they drink it. In nature they live in leaves and they can extract moisture from them, so they rely solely on dew. But the Oecophylla ants are not entirely neat. They have a designated trash area in the outworld, but besides that they really enjoy carrying food into the nest and leaving it there. I don't know if they do this only in my case, but it can disrupt the view and it doesn't seem like a healthy practice. Well, I'll keep observing and studying. Additionally, the mandibles of weaver ants are weak. I make this conclusion based on their poor ability to dismember insects. They can kill them, but usually can't reach the inside. Also, there are several subspecies of weaver ants and I don't know which one I have. In general, they look similar, but my queen has a very unusual morph, so it's possible that she belongs to some special subspecies. Apart from that, the queen is active and a delight to watch. Such an unusual one. I hope that after my video more people will be able to keep these ants. Weaver ants are very intelligent, or at least they give the impression of being so. They remain calm in any situation and seem to know what to do. They can also see me quite well from about half a meter away, and it's truly unusual when ants observe you. Unexpectedly, another hunt. The rove beetle wasn't lucky and the predator went to join the other predators. Rove beetles have very strong chitin and biting through it is not easy, but the weaver ants don't see it as an obstacle. They also grabbed it and stretched it out. Very bloodthirsty ants, but in their habitat they dominate for a reason. They are incredibly important for the ecosystem as they constantly kill large numbers of pests. And here I got my hands on a water feeder. It's a very convenient tool, especially for ants that need to be watered daily, and it's also easy to pour syrup onto it. It's like 2-in-1. We gave the ants treat and now we're observing. For ants like this, it's important to have water readily available in addition to sweetness. And when weaver ants are eating syrup, they don't seem as scary at all. They look very cute and elegant. So far, the second test tube doesn't seem to interest them much, they just walk around in it. It is continuous development and that makes me happy. Although I never shake the thought that I might be doing something wrong. Here is some advice for you. If you are not sure what difficult ants to keep, get some weaver ants. It's unclear what needs to be done, but these ants provide incredible emotions. Inside the nest there is constant activity. Ants walk over each other and cling onto anything they can find. The young workers are even more beautiful, with a vibrant yellow color. Ants often hold brood in their mandibles and just hand downward with it. This reminds me of Diacama ants. Here is how this makeshift setup looks now. 3 test tubes, and as always the incubator with water is empty. Weaver ants often change nests, and as you can see they've already settled into a new test tube. Their resilience to stress is justified by frequent moves. The colony has grown. There are dozens of scouts in the outworld. That means it's time for a new, large hunt on the wooden beetle larva. This larva is a serious adversary that can easily cut an ant in half, but weaver ants won't be stopped by that. Honestly, this moment made me think. I felt very sorry for the wooden beetle larva, and it would have been better if I had just crushed it earlier, but it was too late to change anything. All the foragers nearby gathered for this battle. I never expected so many ants to participate in a hunt like this, but this day was special. About 40 ants are holding the larva, while the rest pour acid on it and bite from all sides. This is what a great hunt looks like. It's not a bunch of ants piling onto a beetle, it's a well-coordinated strategy that always leads to success. The ants do everything together and don't suffer any losses. They spent over an hour on this battle and ended up with plenty of food to accelerate the colony's growth. But as I mentioned earlier, ants like weaver ants have another side, and it's called peace. I have no words to describe these frames. The ants just walk around the plant, just like in nature. Let's summarize the care tips for these ants. These ants need to be given water in its pure form. Provide them with the water feeder at the very least. Weaver ants don't like excessively high humidity. Give them an incubator with water and an empty test tube so they can choose for themselves. If you are setting up a terrarium, maintain humidity levels up to 80% and spray the plants. Offer syrup or honey more often, every 3 days should be sufficient. And don't forget about their daily protein feeding. Weaver ants are so vibrant that they are almost translucent. Pay attention to this moment. You can see how the honey moves inside the ant. Look at the petiole, the segment that connects the thorax to the abdomen. And here is how the ants feel now. For some reason they changed their preference to the test tubes with water and now live in them. Well, they know better. The moral of the story is that it's worth providing weaver ants with various conditions so they can choose for themselves. The colony status is, let's say, average. They've been staying in the one place for a month now and haven't been growing. I suspect the issue lies with the conditions and I'll be renovating their home soon. They wove a temporary nest from the leaves I placed in the outroad and even moved there briefly, but the leaves dried out and the ants returned to the test tubes. The colony isn't shrinking, so that's a relief. It turns out the weaver ants have been with me for 4 months now. Well, yes, there could have been more of them during this time, but anyway, they are alive and seemingly raising a new generation. They actively drink syrups and bring joy in my eyes. The queen is alive and continues to lay eggs. Whether to follow my method of care or not is up to you. I've shown my approach and I can't guarantee its reliability, but if you are planning to keep this species, here is your guide. Weaver ants really have a lot of brood. Why they are developing slowly is another question, but the new larvae and pupae are the very eggs from the past that the queen laid during her time with me, so I've almost solidified the success of raising a generation from scratch. I don't really like keeping them in incubators. Yes, everything is visible and you can monitor the colony's condition, but the weaver ants somehow don't look their best in such a system. I think we'll fix it in the next episode about weaver ants. I won't talk about terrariums, you'll see it for yourselves. Overall, the ants are a joy. It's great to have so many options for their care. This is the kind of ant that allows for creative freedom in their maintenance. We'll continue to watch over them, and if you want to see more of the weaver ants, I'm waiting for you on my social medias. There are links in the description. Let's remember the colony's current state for future comparisons. Thanks for watching. This video turned out to be very rich and probably the most beautiful in the history of the channel. We have the weaver ants to thank for that. This isn't my first attempt in keeping Oecophylla ants, but it's definitely the most successful one. I hope this video will help other keepers who want to have this species. Weaver ants have been a mystery to all of us for a long time, but we are getting closer to solving it, and it's nice that I could contribute to this. Once again, I have a great social medias that you can find in the description, and I'm waiting for all of you there. Also, check out my other videos. Remember, the best reward you can give me is a like, a subscription and a comment. That's all from me. See you in the next story. This is the Ants Terra project. See you.